about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good evening, stroke good afternoon, everyone. It's Jim here at Tutor to You. Welcome to our latest live AQA A-Level Psychology session. And actually, just thinking it through, just having a chat with Lara and Anne with us again tonight. We've suddenly realised that this time next week, we're on the road, aren't we? We're in the psychology tour bus on the way to London. So before we get going on this live session, just a quick reminder, if you didn't already know, that we're on our way to start our grade booster cinema workshops next Wednesday in London, White City, with Lara and Anne kicking us off, and then in Bristol and Birmingham in the week after. And well, great fun. If you get a chance to come and join us, that'll be fantastic. It's a really good day on exam technique, on the advanced information, and lots more besides. Looking forward to it, Anne. Looking forward to it, Lara.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. Nice to see some faces. Nice to actually be teaching you guys face to face for a change.
It's going to be. I can't wait. Can't wait. And of course, don't forget the day before A-Level Business for the best in our Grade Booster workshops. Only kidding. And so if you get a chance to join us, tell your mates, tell your school. If they're, chances are they may be bringing a group to one of our venues, and a chance to do some of the stuff, but it's not the same as the live streams. Tonight's live stream is on the advanced information again. I noticed that Maddie's put a question in the live chat box, so we will come back to any questions like that, Maddie, at the end of the session in about half an hour or so, and pick them up as we go along. Right, what are we on tonight then, Lara? It was attachment last week, so tonight must be
social influence.
Social influence. Which must be a paper one topic, he said, sounding like he knew what he was talking about.
It is a paper one topic, yes.
Fantastic. Right, well, let's crack on. Half an hour or so. And as I say, I'll put any questions or contributions that are worthy on the screen. And also, we've got a few minutes at the end if we need it. So here we go.
Okay, guys, evening. So tonight is our social influence from paper 1. So just a reminder, as always, of the advanced information for social influence for this year's exams. So you can see here quite a bit has been cut out, but actually, we just want to talk to you a bit about the advanced information, because although, on the advanced information, we can see there is obedience, resistance, and minority. It makes it seem like, okay, we don't really need to know about all of conformity, but I'd actually disagree. So, with the explanations of resistance to social influence, including social support and locus control, you may need to know a bit of conformity there, because obviously you're recycling for that topic a lot of the obedience studies and conformity studies to kind of demonstrate or support your social support and locus control explanation. So it's just something to kind of be mindful of and wary of. You're not going to be asked a question specifically on conformity in this advanced information, but knowing some of those studies may aid and help you with that resistance to social influence explanation. So it's just something to be mindful of going forward. So that is what we're going to be covering this evening. We're not going to be going into loads and loads of detail, but of course, Anne and I will be asking you extra questions. So please pop your questions and answers in the chat box for us this evening. So the first game we're going to get going with today is our categorise game. Some of you have played this before, but those of you that haven't, you're going to have 60 seconds, and we'll see how you get on. We might give you an extra 60 seconds if you need it. And you're going to need to separate 1 to 8 into either dispositional or situational explanations of obedience. So your answers here, if you could just put the numbers down for dispositional or situational, if you can put it all in one entry into your chat box, so all together, just so we can see your full answers, that would be really helpful. So just put the numbers down, guys. You're going to have 60 seconds, which starts now. Okay, well done, guys. So I can see we have got some correct answers. Some, maybe 1 or 2 numbers a bit muddled here. So for situational, Danny, you've put 2, 4, and 8. I can tell you now that is spot on. That's correct. So all of those other numbers, that is 1, 3, 5, 6, and 7. I can't even see you got that right first. I think it might be you, Anita, actually, for dispositional. So well done. Let's go through these answers, guys. So let's start with our situational side. So it is an environmental theory. Okay, so it's to do with the situation we find ourselves in, rooted in differing statuses and changes in responsibility. So the statuses is our legitimacy of authority, and changes in responsibility is our agentic state. So quite rightly with number 2, there are 2 theories underpinning the situational explanations there. If we go over to dispositional explanations, this is a personality theory. Can anybody tell me the researcher's name who came up with this particular personality theory? Or even what it's called? What is it actually called, this theory? Who came up with it? Anita, well done. And Ella, excellent. Really, really good. Yeah, so it was Adorno that came up with this particular theory. Can anybody tell what the theory is? Yeah, well done, Anita. Again, in there first, straight away, authoritarian personality. And Eve, you've put the F scale there. You're quite right. It was assessed using the Californian F scale, F standing for fascist scale. So there's just one theory for that side. So that is a personality theory. That is dispositional, is something within us. Research has found that those who obeyed in Milgram's study tended to score highly on this particular measure, which makes sense according to the theory. Those of a authoritarian personality are more likely to obey those of a higher status in an authority position. And like you guys have rightly recognised there, so well done those of you that have recognised that. It was assessed using a questionnaire. Now, if we were going to evaluate this theory, specifically the questionnaire, how might we evaluate that? Any ideas there? So it's kind of propped up and founded on the basis of this data based on a questionnaire. How might we evaluate that? Yeah, some really good answers coming through. A lot of them evolved around biases, definitely. And if we're going to have any type of bias, whether that be social desirability bias, political bias, as Elaine has just said, what does that affect? What does that mean? If we've got bias, what does that mean? So I'm looking for a word beginning with V. What might that affect? What does that mean? If we've got bias. Yeah, really good, Leah. So decreases its validity. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we're getting some really good answers. Reduced validity, Ella, well done. Isabel, again, well done. Yeah. Spot on. Some really good answers there, guys. So again, I guess here with this categorized game, just make sure that you can differentiate between your authoritarian personality theory and your two situational. So your legitimacy of authority and your agentic state. Okay, I'm not going to ask any more questions because we're going to do a few more questions on these theories later on. But I'm going to pass you over to Anne now. Anne's going to do Beat the Teacher with you.
Okay, so on the next slide then, we're going to see there's some mistakes and you need to spot the errors on the, I'm hoping this is the right slide. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay, so there's some errors on that slide. So using the chat box, tell me what the errors are and what the correct answer should be. Or and correct the answer that's wrong, the bit that's wrong. Well, I might tell you how many in a minute, but not yet. Yep. Okay. Yeah, Amy May. Yeah, it should be each time the participant got a wrong answer, not a right answer. Yep, that is an error, and you're kind of right that everything's right up to then. It was actually, I suppose the fact that random is inverted commas is showing that wasn't quite right, but because it was rigged. You are correct there, Raghav. But we've kind of, by putting it inverted commas, shown that we know it wasn't random. Okay, yeah, it was 65% that went to the maximum voltage in the original baseline experiment. Yes, it was. So that's a second error. It was 100% went to 300 volts. Yep, well done. We've got one more. Yeah, it was 300, not 400. It's 65%. It was wrong answer, not right answer. One more. No, the seizures was okay. It's before then. Actually, Raghav, you are right. Although it was a lab study, though. It doesn't say it was a lab experiment. So that's not wrong, but it is known as a controlled observation. People do want to call it an experiment, but it was in a laboratory, so laboratory study is right. There is no IV, but we've not said it was an experiment, so the laboratory study is absolutely fine. Yeah, we know that one, Bridget. There's one more. Think about Mr. Wallace kicking a wall. Yeah, we've got that one, Sasha. No, but we've just said about the randomly assigned. We put it in inverted commas because we know it wasn't.
And I think Anita's got the right answer there.
Have I spotted it? No, each time we've got a wrong answer, we've had that one.
Oh, you've got
it. Yeah, no, we've had. He did kick, but when did he kick? Let out a scream was in the voice feedback. There's so many different conditions. It's the amount of volts that's wrong there. It's quite a minor detail, so that's an additional finding, Bethany, that could be in that. Yeah, it was at 300 volts, Alina. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so if we look at the errors then, they were the 4 errors. As I've said about the randomly assigned, we know they weren't randomly assigned, but we've got it in inverted commas because it was rigged. So somebody was right there. Okay, so we got them all. So well done. You beat the teacher in the end with a little hint. And some additional findings as well, which was good.
All right, guys, so the 3, 2, 1 game. So you're going to have 2 minutes to answer this. Again, try and put all your answers in the same kind of box and then press enter when you're done. So the questions are for this particular game. You need 3. I want 3 factors that affect obedience from you. I want 2 explanations of obedience. And lastly, I want 1 factor that Moscovici demonstrated in his study for minority influence.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Excellent. I think Isabel was right to get in there with all the correct answers first, but I can see we've got loads of correct answers coming through. So let's go through the answers. Our 3 factors that affect obedience. You're quite right. You're all right in this. I don't think anyone got this one wrong. Proximity, location, and uniform. Can anyone give me one of the variations of Milgram's study to do with proximity? Because there are quite a few variations for proximity. Can anybody give me one of them? How did he assess proximity? What did he do? Yeah, Leah, so, and Hannah as well. Yeah, where the learner and teacher are in the same room. We also had the telephone proximity where the experimenter gave the instructions over the phone. Hannah, yeah, to the point where actually the participant had to hold Mr. Wallace's down on the shock plate. Different rooms in the same room. Yeah, really good. Are you really knowledgeable about all the variations, guys? Really impressed. What about the location? Where did he change the location to? Yeah, rundown downtown office. And what happened to obedience levels when Milgram changed the location to the rundown office? Did they increase or decrease the obedience levels? Well done. Excellent, Rosie, Callum. Yeah, they dropped. Can anybody try and explain why the obedience levels dropped when he changed the location from a university setting to a rundown office? Who can explain that for us? Any theory there behind that? Why did it fall? Yeah, Rosie, less prestigious. It's not formal. Yeah, it does lower the legitimacy of authority. Yeah, excellent. Really good theoretical link there, guys. Really good. Let's move on to number 2 then. So number 2, we had 2 explanations of obedience. Of course, you could have also put legitimacy of authority as well there, which is your situational along with agentic, and then you've got your dispositional, which is your Adorno's, which we've already been through earlier. So let's have a look at number 1, which was our Moscovici one. So just to be clear, Moscovici is not quoted in the specification, but it kind of is a bit of a kind of a main study, if you like, for minority influence, specifically the factor of consistency. Can anybody remember any details about Moscovici's study into consistency at all? What was part of his procedure, for example? Yeah, Ethan, well done. The green and blue slides. Yeah, really good, Elena. So 1% when inconsistent, 8% when consistent. Yeah, so showing that really a consistent minority is much more successful than an inconsistent minority. Yeah, the blue and green slides. Well done, guys, for remembering that. Excellent. Really good detail coming through. All right. Let's pass you over to Anne then. Anne's going to have a look at some examples of going beyond the STEM with you next.
Okay, so we're going to look at an application question now. And sometimes application questions vary. Sometimes within the STEM, within the stimulus material or the little scenario, there are some clues of information to include. But sometimes application questions do what we call going beyond the STEM. They require you to demonstrate your subject knowledge by making applications that aren't actually included in the STEM already for you, which really involves you kind of having to think on the spot and use your knowledge. So we're going to look at some examples of this type of application question and think about how they should be answered. So if we have a look at this question, which was actually on an exam paper. So it was 2 parts. So the first part was name 3 behaviours that enable a minority to influence a majority. And then the second one, there's a little bit of information. So Marcus wants to persuade his group of friends to go traveling this summer, but the rest of the group would like to go on a beach holiday. Briefly suggest how Marcus might use the 3 behaviours you've identified in your answer to question 1 to persuade his friends to go traveling. Okay, so before we change the slide, because the answers come on the next one. Oh, somebody's already answered the first question. Well done, Isabel. I was just going to say, can you tell me the name 3 behaviours that enable a minority to influence a majority? So that's fantastic. You were in there. You anticipated what I was going to say. So those are the 3 that are named on the specification. So consistency, commitment, flexibility. So we can go on to the next slide then. Okay, so consistency, commitment, flexibility. So, okay, then let's just think about these things. So what do we mean by consistency? Well, you started answering the question, though. Let's just think generally. What do we mean by consistency? Oh, you just want to answer the question, don't you? Okay. Let's go to the next slide then. So how can Marcus use consistency, commitment, and flexibility? So consistency we've got there. Every time they talk about holidays, we could mention a particular location. Somebody said commitment, but let me just pop that back and say what they said. I maybe already started saving up for it. That's his commitment. Yes, he could say that he's already committed. Consistency, yeah, we've got the same message and the message mustn't change over time. So keep saying about a beach holiday. Oh, we've got some nice terminology there. Diachronic consistency, repeating the same view. So he needs to keep hitting that home, doesn't he? The same message, it mustn't change over time. But applying it to the STEM, so that's good. How much fun it will be to go on a beach holiday. So remember, you need to, like Raghav, I hope I'm saying your name right, but you need to apply that to the STEM rather than saying it generally. So, okay, so we've said commitment. So not a beach holiday, traveling. Marcus wants to go traveling. Yes, not on the beach. So keep saying about going traveling. Okay, and then Leah, you've come in with flexibility. Really good. So, so we could say, well, okay, we'll go traveling, but we'll still visit some beaches, and that would be being flexible, wouldn't it? So well done. So consistent, saying the same thing. So keep going about going traveling, flexibility to a beach, and commitment. What other ways could Marcus show his commitment? Often, because these need to be realistic things as well, not things like say you could go on hunger strike if they won't agree with him, because that's been a bit ridiculous. But what could he do to show commitment? He could sacrifice his free time by making an itinerary. Yes, lovely. Yeah, he could do the legwork, couldn't he? He could do the itinerary. He could book the tickets. He could do the hard work, couldn't he? To show his commitment. Be willing to plan the holiday. Yeah. So if Rihanna, you make a sacrifice to show his dedication, and that's what it means, but you haven't applied that to this scenario. So that's the next step, which Shalina has said, plan the whole holiday, because that is making some sort of sacrifice because he's giving up his time. Yep, he could buy some tickets. Yeah, he could agree to pay for them all if he's got lots of money. But maybe, that could be a lot of money. Okay, so let's have a look then at our answers. I think you've done really well there. Yeah. So I think we got all of those really. Show consistency by repeating the same message about how great it would be to go traveling. Show commitment by offering to make all the arrangements, booking the tickets, which we said, and flexibility, which again you said they could visit some places where there are beaches. So what you've been needing to do in these sorts of questions is not just show your knowledge, not just define what these things mean, because that's not what you've been asked to do. You've been asked to suggest how markers might use the three behaviours. So the red is the answers. The black is kind of what you know in your head, and the red is your answer to the question. So the key thing is that you are applying your knowledge to that scenario. Yeah, good old AO2. You know, and it's more than just dropping in the person's name now and again. It's really, you know, using your knowledge and applying it to that scenario. And students, when that was on the exam, students that they typically got the first part right, got the three things, but then either did very well or very poorly on the second part, because some students just did define what they meant rather than actually applied them to markers. And as I say, there were some suggestions that were a bit ridiculous, like him going on hunger strike if his friends wouldn't go where he wanted them to. Your suggestions were much more sensible. Okay, so I'm going to pass you back to Laura.
Okay, guys, so as it says, true or false game. Let's get a T or an F from you in the answer box. So, internal locus of control individuals are more likely to resist the pressure to conform and obey. Is this true or false? So, Ethan, you got in there first with a true. Are we all saying true? Well done, Danny. Yeah. Oh, you've all come flying in with your T's. Yes, that is true. So, bit of an extension. Who can tell me why that is? Why is it internal locus control more likely to resist the pressure to conform and obey? Why is that exactly? Who can explain it? Yeah, well done, Aisha. So this is because they see themselves as responsible for their own actions. Yeah, they believe, you know, fate or their actions are down to them. They're more confident. They take responsibility. They're not dependent on others' opinions. Very good. Yeah, Anna, they believe they have the ability to determine their own life and their fate. Elena, well done. They're leaders, not followers. Yeah, they do tend to be leaders, not followers. Well done. Yeah, really good answers coming through about responsibility. Perfect. All right, let's move on to the next one, guys. So those with an authoritarian personality tend to not be clear on right and wrong. True or false? Okay, Isabel in there first with false. Not as many answers for this one, but we're getting falses through. What other kind of factors could we define an authoritarian personality? So one, you're quite right, this is false. They do tend to be very clear on right and wrong. What other factors can we define an authoritarian personality by? So one is that they're very clear on right and wrong. What else? Yeah, they do tend to have respect for authority. Yeah, they have rigid beliefs in conventional values. Really good, Anita. Yeah. Where does this stem from? Where does this all stem from, according to Adorno's personality theory? Blind respect. Very good. Very dogmatic. Traditional views. So where's all of this stem from? Rachel, well done. They have strict parents. Yeah, childhood. Really good. Yeah, absolutely. Really good, guys. Well done. Well done. Let's move on to that next one then. All right. When proximity is increased between teacher and learner, obedience decreases. Is that true or is that false? Okay, we've got a bit of a mixed response here. Read that carefully, guys. When proximity is increased, when we increase the proximity between teacher and learner, obedience decreases. Okay, let's reveal our correct answer then. We've got some mixed ones. It's quite a tricky wording, isn't it? So when proximity is increased between teacher and learner, obedience does decrease. So remember our variations that we spoke about earlier, guys. So we had the variation where the experimenter and the participant, the proximity was much larger because it was done from further away, so they're on the phone, and obedience decreased. But when the teacher and learner are in the same room, okay, so they're very close to each other, our obedience decreased. Okay, but when they were not in the same room, we had our kind of stable, our stabled line of obedience, okay, that we had in our original study. Yeah, Mercy, you've got some stats there, so it goes from 65 to 40%. In the case of Milgram, we are talking about Milgram when we're kind of discussing these obedience findings. Yeah, well done, guys. Let's move on to the next one. All right. When minorities appear inflexible, this increases their chances of converting the majority. True or false? Okay, Isabel in there first again, false. Can we justify our answers once we've popped our true or false in the box? So a lot of us are saying false. Why is that? Yeah, they appear dogmatic, very rigid if they're inflexible. Yeah, they should be flexible, Helen. Well done. Yeah, so flexibility in terms of kind of compromising and meeting, the majority halfway, and they're not kind of alienating the majority in that respect then. Yeah, really good. So that one is false. Yeah, really good, Aisha. Yeah, and Anita, they need to be prepared to adapt their point of view, not completely change it, but adapt it and compromise with the majority, definitely. All right, let's look at the next one then. So our last one for true or false. So legitimacy of authority comes before the agentic state. True or false? So some are saying true, some are saying false. Yeah, we definitely got some mixed responses here. So I think we had a question before. I'm just going to answer that whilst you guys are putting your answers through. Someone asked what dogmatic means. Dogmatic is kind of, you're really certain in your position that that you're right and everyone else is wrong. So again, appearing to be inflexible is what we mean by being dogmatic. All right, let's reveal the answer here because I'm going to explain this. Right, now I see legitimacy of authority in agentic state as a two-step kind of theory. For someone to be in the agentic state, they need to really believe the authority figure is legitimate in their position before they go into the agentic state. So unless, if they believe that the authority figure is legitimate in their position, maybe they have uniform, they maybe have certain qualifications, certain status, higher status, then that's when the agentic shift state occurs. So they go from being autonomous to agentic. Now, agentic state doesn't really happen unless you believe the authority figure to be legitimate in their position. So if you like, legitimacy of authority really does come before agentic state. Yeah, really good, Ella. Just reading your response. So Ella said they have to recognise an authority figure as legitimate to act as an agent for them. Really good. Well done. Yes, spot on. And Aisha, well done. You've got a similar answer there as well. And same as Anita. Really good. Yeah, perfect. Really good answers, guys. All right, I'm going to pass you over to Anne just for the last activity today.
Okay, so the last activity, we're going to do a marking exercise. If you have got a piece of paper or something there, you might want to just jot down some of the descriptors because you won't have the mark scheme in front of you. But this is a typical mark scheme for a 4-mark application question. So we've got the question there. So according to government statistics, over the last 2 decades, the household waste recycling rate in England has increased significantly from 11.2% to 43.2% in 2018. I think it's probably even higher now. And then the question, using your knowledge of social influence processes in social change, explain possible reasons for this change in behaviour. So this is another example of where it goes beyond the STEM, because there's nothing in that STEM to tell you what this, to even hint what these social influence processes in social change might actually be. So you've really got to know some of them and then be able to apply them to that scenario. So if we kind of look at the descriptors for the 2 levels, so for 3 or 4 marks, that would be a band 2 answer. Then there needs to be mostly clear and accurate knowledge of social influence processes in social change, and it needs to be applied appropriately to explain possible reasons for why there might be this change to greater recycling. And then the answer needs to be generally coherent with effective use of terminology. So if you're going to be giving the answer 3 or 4, then it needs to meet those. So it needs to be mostly clear and accurate knowledge, applied appropriately, and generally coherent. It doesn't matter, because what we I'm just trying to remember if Laura, is it on the advanced information?
For social change.
Yeah.
Social change isn't, but
Well,
a lot of
that's what I thought.
No, it's not.
It's not. It doesn't matter. We're just looking at the techniques there. We're just looking at good answers or poor answers. Okay. And then for a 1 or a 2 mark, there is limited or partial knowledge and some appropriate application. If there's very little appropriate application, then it would only be getting 1. There are some links with minority influence, you're right there. But remember, we're just looking at the skill of writing good application questions here. So it doesn't matter. We're not kind of revising the topic because we're giving you the information. We're just looking at what is a good or not a good answer. Okay, so if we have a look at this first answer, so I'll give you sort of a couple of minutes to read through that and then decide which mark. We'll just go for what mark you're going to give it. Are you going to give it 1, 2, 3, or 4? So I'm not going to read through. I'm going to let you read it yourself. That was quick with a 2 in there. Must be a faster reader than me, even. So have a look at the answer. Have a look back at the question. And then award it a mark. Then I'm going to pick someone to tell me why they gave it the mark that they gave it. Oh, so he's starting to tell me why now. They weren't asked to evaluate Ethan now. There was no evaluation there. Knowledge, not application. Yes, Alina, but have you given a mark? What mark would you go with? Yeah. Okay, well, quite a few, mostly 1s and 2s. Okay. That would be a 1. Okay. And for the reason that you've said that there is very little application. Okay, there's lots of knowledge, but it's not linked to the STEM. And you feel for this student in a way, because if this was a student answer, they probably went away thinking they really wrote a really good answer to that question. But they've kind of fallen into that trap, because if you look at the answer, the only reference to people recycling is in the first sentence. A variety of social influence processes are involved in social change and might be responsible for people recycling more. After that, there is no, it isn't, Ella. It's not a real answer. We made this one up, but it is typical of answers that you often see, where people just drop the name in a couple of times. There's nothing wrong with Moscovici, but it's not applied to the STEM. They've not used Moscovici to explain why people are recycling more. Or have they? They've just dropped in the study. I mean, they know about the study. Because it's an application question, Rachel. And it's not answered the question. Because look at the question: using your knowledge of social influence processes in social change, explain possible reasons for this change in behaviour. They haven't actually explained any reasons why, explicitly, any reasons why people might be recycling more. They've just quoted everything they know about social influence processes and haven't answered the question, which is sad. But that's what happens. It's not an 8. No, it was a 4 marks for AO2. So yeah, it's a generic answer, not applied to the set question. They've just dropped in people recycling more at the beginning, but they haven't actually answered it. So you've summed it up. You've summed it up there in a sentence. Okay, let's have a look at the next one then. Alina, you actually can't. But if it's a question, but the important thing is to just answer the question. You're being, in this question, you're being asked to explain possible reasons for why people are recycling more. And that's what you need to be writing about. So just answer the question. Yeah, it's definitely level 2, and it is 4. And to be honest, there's more, because sometimes this can be asked for, this sort of question can be asked for 6 marks. And if this was a 6 mark answer, it would get 6 marks. Because it has explained possible reasons for change of behaviour. They've taken their knowledge of the different social influence processes. Well, everywhere where it's highlighted red is using the STEM, because it's related to why people are recycling more. Yeah, it does say too much. It's where the danger is that if you overwrite, then you might run out of time somewhere else. To be honest, they probably have got 4 marks, maybe even before they get onto flexibility. But certainly after flexibility, before they get onto conformity processes, were also involved. They could have missed out all that last bit and still got the 4 marks. And that's something you really need to think about, is the timing of answers, because this is only like a 4-minute answer. So yeah, that's probably where I would, where you could say stop after flexibility. And if it was a 6 mark answer, then maybe put the conformity processes in as well. Because overwriting's all very well, but if it means that you run out of time somewhere else and don't finish an essay off, then you're going to lose a lot more marks. So you do need to time them very carefully. But hopefully you can see how, as I said, this is an example of where you're asked to go beyond the STEM, because there isn't very much in the STEM to help you with your answer. other than it's telling you that this change in behaviour is the move towards recycling more. And so things like minority influence, so you had all the various pressure groups that were pressuring for recycling, and they convinced the majority. They consistently presented the same message. The sending waste to landfill was inefficient, and then there were protests by these groups like Greenpeace and so on, and flexibility, because we weren't expected to recycle everything straight away. This it kind of built up over time, these sort of green issues. So it's just thinking about, and somebody said, do you recommend reading all the questions carefully? Certainly yes, always read the questions carefully, and always look for the words and look for exactly what you're being asked to do, and don't dive in straight away, especially with these application questions. You need to be underlining the key information and working out exactly what it is that you're being asked to do. Because I think on this one, people focus too much on the first part of the question, using your knowledge of social influence processes in social change, and then don't actually read the second part of the question, which is explain possible reasons for this change in the behaviour. Well, it depends what the STEM is. Yes, you could do, because you could say about this increase from X percent to that percent. Yes. I don't know, Klima, about the A-level grade boundaries. I don't know. You don't know until the exam's been done.
Wow, fantastic session. We have packed a lot in there on exam technique in particular. They're looking at those application questions. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And lots of stuff also earlier on some of the advanced information nuggets. So, we've done social influence and attachment and memory so far, haven't we? And I think the plan is once we get back from our tour, starting this time next week in London, we will crack on with covering some of the other paper 1 and then paper 2 topics with some live streams. But I think we're just about done, aren't we? Are you excited, Lara? And Anne's done lots of our workshops before, but Lara, it's a debut in the huge screen in White City.
Next week. Yeah, I'm very excited, actually. I am.
Should be good. And as always, a huge thanks to everybody who's joined us live tonight. Great numbers as always, and we've tried to put just a selection of the great contributions on the screen there as we were going. Apologies if I haven't put something from everyone there, because there's too many people and too many great answers. So, but we will try to showcase some of the fantastic stuff we see in the live chat as we're going through. I think we are done. Oh, Aisha's saying she's going to see us in Birmingham. That'd be good. That's the week after next. Fantastic stuff. Right, I think we're done. So a huge thanks as always to Lara and Anne for putting such a big effort in after a busy day running these sessions. And as I say, if you go to tutortu.net/live, you can watch this and all the previous revision sessions that we've done live if you want to add that to your revision. We're good to go now. We're going to go pack our suitcases and get ready to join the tour bus this time next week. And so we'll be taking a break for a few weeks from the live streams. Hopefully catch you live at one of the events. If we do, come and say hello. It'd be great to meet you. Spread the word. And until we meet again on the live streams, we'll say see you later.
Bye, guys. Take care.